He'd put 3 fish in there and make you 3 or 4. Those were just like fertile fish at the time that would just breed the minefield really well right there. And you just mine it out as eggs, and no one would know. Mine it out of your statue as eggs. There's probably eggs in the statue, like something that would come out as something a spirocate could conceal, and could be legally considered the metagenome of our fossil, given our stature, and the fact that we saturate so much tissue and just done it in extremely inventive ways, and then also just corporally fossilized lots of things that could be DNA, but might be bullets depending on where you buy them. And you might not know you're right in America / Barbadia. Like, we would just sell it to you as a more Russian island, like you swam like the fish, and you'd be oil just swimming there. We think that we still have some whale coral, and it's just breeding. We'll have the whale. We'll just have the semen, and Rasputin will stand tall for that whale. He'll have the semen. He'll breed it back here big, and the cars will burn again. They'll know they have the gas when they see the whale, and they'll burn it big that time. They'll just swim it right to the core, right to the siren. They would swim anything there. That's the coral where they cut for crabs, but the next day they'll cut for crabs, and then it's like they'll cut for gas right there, just right out of the eels somehow, as if it's their purple narco, and it's like you're the cow milker for it, and could do it with the still water. You just burn the gasoline in both directions, like it's the way that burns the nesting dolls. And that's the way our coral does. Some people burn it just to ward our nesting dolls off, thinking it is Cthulhu. And we just happen to have a head that used to be able to eat on the ocean, so you could hold the uranium there, and we're the nuclear reactor for it that could actually hold it there in the ocean and cool it. And like, you wouldn't boil it or anything, and you wouldn't take it because it's like the volcano would heat up for you, and you just cut it open like quite a bit. You'd bash at it at that point, and just think it was glass and was looking right at you, and just bash it open, leak it out of whatever rested there, and could be a reactor that might have been mostly geothermal at that point. Mostly didn't bring it there. Kind of didn't thaw anything there. Like, was glass there at one point when it was a fish and just bone? Probably glass is something that was our coral. We just didn't know what it was. Someone could rusted it right into the coral and was a spirocate, and we just broke them right out of an acid tube right there when we could make synth music on the shoal. And that's when they took our sand. They took it for our music because our music it took the sand. It would put the sand anywhere. Like, we had the acid that could put the sand where it was your war, and that was like the sand war. And man, we put it in someone's hand where they just had the war and really was just a nesting doll. And just planted it in the tree and put corals in it. And you'd statuize another coral if you really came to our coral. And you cut for crabs the first day, but then we cut you for crabs. And it was like we were cutting for gas the next day. We just had some of the gas. We mostly cut cats for it. We just thought it cut right out of there, and just had the gas then. And then we could cut it right out of the tank. So it was like what we had for coral. But we were cutting gas, we were cutting crabs. We could cut the nerve out of the eels if you burned it in both directions and just shot it in every. We were doing it with some of the Urkel there, and it was just breeding the nuclear reactor that could do it. It was just really cool. People thought it was cool. Like, it wouldn't cut for crabs. It wouldn't cut for crabs just right unless you had the fish. And you would just fish it somewhere cool. Like somewhere you could be the killer for it. And you'd cut for crabs there, cut for gas a little bit, oil, grass, couple of plants people only ate. Couple of plants people were metal only ate and stuff like that, and went deep underground you wouldn't know about. We throw them in the sea where you do. No, it's just I don't think anyone donated as blood as my thyroid coral. Like there aren't, or as whale coral or anything that's at my show. Or anything I showed there. Um, but like they would cut for something American they invented. You just say it's the food, maybe. Not put in Alaska. And they fracked it in there a long time ago and just thought, maybe it came there from Russia. Frack it in there, make it a food. They could frack any pirate into Alaska as a food. It would just wash ashore there as an ice. And probably have lots of statuary stuff we should have had because we had the pipeline that would just fossilize it and burn it right through. And we just said we had the metal and kind of fracked it right out. It was kind of oil at that point. We would pull it out as whatever you would burn. If you just burned a tank at that point, it would kind of burn. You had to be careful with the explosive at that point if you had anything that was military. You would hold it how the guy who fired it did, and you just stood his tank still and fired it fucking far as hell, where it was just scary as hell and landed near tanks. The wars are scarier now. It looks like they fly it right at you, and it could be like a child's toy. It could be like something you could conceal in your own wood, and the Kaiser would let you. He just wanted you to conceal that one. He just said you'd conceal the one that was the wood, not the egg, and you wouldn't touch and alter it in a way that could even implicate you and construct you in an incarceration in a way that would be more correlates the coral is. you're a nuclear reactor that breeds it. You're a petting zoo lamb. You go right into the reactor. If you wash up further down the river, you're just a particular kind of Saudi lamb that sells grass well. Like, it'll eat it. It would sell it and maybe conceal it to you as a few seeds and just tell you had them. Or just be the Saudi that did that, had the lamb that did that. And lamb would just build the petting zoo for it. It would pet that zoo. At least the zoo it would eat. It was the corporal lamb and would eat the zoo it would pet. If it planted it itself. It could be the Kaiser and just did it early, was our point at that point. Like when it was shutting eggs at our bank. And just was kind of the doll that did that, so. And it only did that as a Russian doll, like the Russians had the mitochondria for it and just had the lamb, like we didn't have the lamb. That was weird. Because when it came back to us as our eggs and just washed out right there, we didn't know the Russians planted a tree and just thought they had the uranium in like the weirdest way. We thought that might be it. We didn't know that exactly was it, and we're just pretty sure. Oh, it's going a second.